Imagine there exists an ancient practice that modern neuroscience is discovering to be more powerful for healing trauma, anxiety, and depression than any medication ever created. A practice that literally rebuilds your brain, creating new neural circuits and erasing toxic thought patterns. Think with me, what if I told you that you carry within yourself a healing laboratory more sophisticated than any hospital in the world? That your mind possesses a self-repair mechanism that can be activated through specific words repeated consciously. There exists a subtle, almost invisible truth that imprisons millions of people in the silence of their own mental battles, the belief that we are victims of our thoughts, that we have no control over the neural patterns that destroy us from within. This trap is not an external problem, nor an enemy we can see with our eyes. It's an internal void, silent and deep, created by the lack of connection with our own capacity for neural self-regeneration. Today, here at Daily Prayer, we're going to reveal how a specific form of prayer becomes advanced neural therapy, capable of rewriting your mental programming and creating new pathways of peace, clarity, and inner strength. And attention. What you're going to discover by the end may revolutionize not only your emotional life, but your own brain structure. Because the most powerful revelation about spiritual neuroplasticity will come last. Welcome to Daily Prayer, a place of prayer, presence, and daily inspiration, created especially so you never walk alone in your journey of inner healing. If you feel you've arrived here for a greater purpose, if something within you recognizes that you need this information today, please subscribe to the Daily Prayer channel. Leave your like so more people can find this transformative discovery, and share with someone who is also seeking liberation from destructive mental patterns. Your comments strengthen our community of seekers of true healing. I spent years believing my mind was my enemy, that obsessive thoughts, constant anxiety, self-sabotage patterns were fixed parts of my personality. I tried therapies, medications, breathing techniques, traditional meditation. Some things helped temporarily, but nothing reached the root of the problem. That's when I discovered something that changed everything. It wasn't enough to observe thoughts. They needed to be replaced. It wasn't enough to breathe. Words needed to be spoken. It wasn't enough to meditate in silence. Words needed to be used as neural scalpels, cutting toxic connections and creating new thought networks. Dr. Andrew Newberg, neuroscientist at the University of Pennsylvania, made a revolutionary discovery. When we repeat specific phrases with focused intention, we simultaneously activate the prefrontal cortex, responsible for executive control, and the limbic system, emotional center, creating neural bridges that didn't exist before. But it wasn't just any type of repetition. It had to be prayer. It had to carry sacred intention. It had to connect the mind with something greater than itself. Because when we pray consciously, we're not just speaking, we're programming. The first time I experienced this technique was in a moment of total despair. I was in a panic attack so intense I felt I was going to die. Instead of fighting the fear, I began to repeat in a low voice, "My soul is safe. My soul is at peace. My soul is stronger than this moment." I repeated this for 20 minutes, and something extraordinary happened. Not only did the crisis pass, I felt something fundamental had changed in my mental structure, as if I had planted seeds of calm in territory that before only knew chaos. Dr. Sara Lazar, Harvard neuroscientist, proved that repetitive contemplative practices increase gray matter density in the hippocampus, area of memory and learning, and decrease amygdala volume, center of fear and stress. But she discovered something even more impressive. This happens in just 8 weeks of consistent practice. 8 weeks. Your brain can be literally reconstructed in 2 months using sacred words as neuroplasticity tools. But here's the secret most people don't understand. Not just any prayer produces this therapeutic effect. It has to be prayer of recognition, not supplication. Prayer of affirmation, not negation. Prayer that declares truths about your soul, not that begs for external changes. When you pray, "Please cure me of anxiety," you're reinforcing the belief that you are anxious. When you pray, "My soul is naturally calm," you're installing a new neural program. The difference is subtle but revolutionary. One prayer strengthens the problem, the other builds the solution. In the next parts of this journey, I'm going to teach you exactly how to construct neurally therapeutic prayers, how to use specific words to erase traumas, dissolve fears, and install thought patterns that generate automatic peace. I'm going to show you how 15 minutes of conscious prayer can do more for your mental health than years of other therapies. Because when you understand that your soul possesses an internal pharmacy more powerful than any laboratory, everything changes. But first, breathe deeply with me. Place your hand on your chest. Feel your heart beating. This life pulsing within you, it carries all the resources necessary for your own healing. You just need to learn to activate them through sacred language. Now I'm going to reveal something that will forever change how you understand the power of words. Every thought you think creates a neural pathway. Every emotion you feel strengthens specific connections in your brain. And every word you repeat with intention becomes mental architecture. This means you're not just thinking your life. You're literally building your brain word by word, thought by thought, prayer by prayer. Dr. Joe Dispenza, neuroscientist and neuroplasticity researcher, discovered that when we repeat affirmations with elevated emotion, we create what he calls new neural networks of possibility. We're not just changing our thoughts, we're changing our physical brain structure. But here's what he and other scientists discovered recently. Common affirmations don't work for most people because they don't access the necessary depth. They stay on the surface of the rational mind. To generate real change, it's necessary to access what mystics have always called the soul. That's why prayer is more powerful than self-help. Prayer doesn't just speak to your mind, it speaks to your essence. And your essence has authority over your biology. Let me teach you now the first technique of neural therapeutic prayer. A technique you can use to dissolve anxiety in real time, rewrite fear patterns, and install deep calm in your nervous system. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, breathe naturally. Let's do together what I call sacred neural reprogramming. First, you're going to recognize what you're feeling now without judgment. I recognize that my mind is agitated. Pause for 5 seconds. Feel this truth. I recognize that my body is tense. Pause again. Don't try to change anything. Just recognize. I recognize that I'm carrying worries that don't belong to me. Now comes the transformative part. You're going to install new truths through conscious repetition. My soul knows peace. Repeat 3 times, slowly. Feel each word entering your system. My soul is stronger than any mental storm. 3 times. With conviction, as if you were installing new software. My soul possesses an internal pharmacy of tranquility. Continue repeating. Feel your nervous system beginning to calm. I access this peace now. I allow this calm to spread through every cell. What you just experienced wasn't just relaxation. It was active neural reprogramming. You used words as programming code to install new patterns in your brain. Dr. Richard Davidson, neuroscientist at the University of Wisconsin, proved through magnetic resonance that practices like this activate the left prefrontal cortex, area associated with resilience and emotional regulation, while reducing activity in the right amygdala, center of fear and anxiety. But I'll tell you something even more impressive. When you do this consistently, you create what we call spiritual muscle memory. Your brain begins to access states of peace automatically, even in stressful situations. Imagine having an internal button you can press at any moment to access deep calm. It's not fantasy. It's neuroplasticity applied through sacred language. The difference between this technique and traditional meditation is that here, you're actively building something new, not just observing what already exists. You're using your voice as a tool for neural transformation. Every time you repeat, "My soul knows peace," you're strengthening neural circuits of tranquility. Every time you declare, "I am stronger than this moment," you're building networks of resilience, Words aren't just sounds. They're frequencies. They're codes. They're direct commands to your nervous system. But here's something crucial you need to understand. This works because you're not trying to convince your mind. You're reminding your soul, and your soul always knew these truths. It was just waiting for you to recognize them through conscious language. In the next few minutes, I'm going to teach you specific techniques for different situations. Neural prayer for insomnia, for depression, for trauma, for toxic relationships. Each one works through the same principle, using sacred words to rewrite neural code. But first, I want you to try something. During the next 3 days, every time you feel anxiety or fear, instead of fighting against these feelings, use this phrase: "My soul is safe in this moment." Repeat 20 times. Observe how your body responds. You'll notice that you're not just calming down. You're literally teaching your brain a new way to react to stress. You're creating new neural pathways of serenity. And the more you practice, the more automatic this becomes. Until one day you realize the anxiety that dominated you for years simply can't install itself anymore, because you rebuilt your brain through sacred words. This isn't positive thinking. It's not self-deception. It's neuroscience applied through spiritual language. It's science and soul working together for your complete liberation. Now I'm going to reveal the deepest secret about why some people can completely heal from trauma, depression, and anxiety through prayer, while others remain trapped in the same patterns for decades. The difference lies in a revolutionary neuroscience discovery that will change everything you believe about emotional healing. The difference lies in what we call specific neural language. It's not enough to pray. You need to pray with words that your brain recognizes as transformation commands. Dr. Daniel Siegel, psychiatrist and neuroscientist at UCLA, discovered that our brain possesses what he calls neural keywords, specific terms that immediately activate healing and regeneration systems. And the fascinating thing is that these words have always been present in the most ancient spiritual traditions. When you say, "I'm trying to get well," your brain hears effort and struggle. When you declare, "My soul is remembering its healthy nature," your brain activates self-regeneration protocols. The difference is subtle but neurally revolutionary. I'm going to teach you now 3 neural prayer formulas that work as specific antidotes for the 3 most common types of mental suffering: chronic anxiety, persistent depression, and emotional trauma. For chronic anxiety, use this sequence. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and repeat with me: "My soul possesses a natural anchoring in tranquility." Pause 5 seconds. Feel this truth installing itself. Each breath connects me with this anchoring. Breathe consciously 3 times. "My nervous system knows the rhythm of serenity." Repeat this sequence 5 times. Observe how your body relaxes layer by layer. For persistent depression, the formula is different. There exists in me a source of joy that is independent of circumstances. Pause. Even if you don't feel this now, declare it as truth. This source is reactivating at this moment. Feel a small light turning on inside your chest. "My soul remembers how natural it is to rejoice in its own existence." Repeat until you feel a small internal movement, a small opening. For emotional trauma, use this gentler approach. "My soul is greater than any experience I've ever lived." Say this gently, without forcing. "There exists a part of me that remained untouched and safe." Touch your heart. Connect with this truth. "I allow myself to heal at my own pace, with all compassion." Repeat as many times as you need. No rush, no pressure. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, world specialist in trauma, proved that when we use language that recognizes our internal capacity for healing, we activate what he calls the parasympathetic nervous system of recovery. We're not just calming ourselves. We're accessing ancestral biological mechanisms of self-repair. But here's what most people don't understand. These prayers don't work because you believe in them intellectually. They work because they connect you with truths that your soul always knew, but that your mind forgot. Every time you repeat, "My soul possesses an internal pharmacy of peace," you're not trying to convince yourself of something new. You're remembering something old, something that was always there, waiting to be recognized. And here's the most extraordinary part. The more you use these specific neural prayers, the more your brain begins to naturally produce the neurotransmitters associated with well-being. Serotonin, dopamine, GABA, your own internal pharmacy activates. It's not placebo. It's directed neuroplasticity. It's your soul teaching your brain to heal itself. In recent years, I've worked with hundreds of people using these techniques. I've seen people who took antidepressants for decades manage to free themselves through consistent neural prayer. I've seen childhood traumas being healed in months through specific sacred language. I'm not saying to abandon medical treatments. I'm saying you possess internal resources more powerful than you imagine. And these resources can be activated through conscious words repeated with intention. The key is consistency. 15 minutes a day, every day. Not once a week when you remember. Not just when you're in crisis. Daily, as if you were taking sacred medication. Because that's exactly what you're doing. You're medicating yourself with divine language. You're using words as healing molecules. You're activating your spiritual pharmacy through millennial neural codes. And the transformation doesn't happen only in your mind. Your whole body begins to change. Your posture, your breathing, your tone of voice, your presence. Because when you heal your neural patterns through prayer, you don't just become calmer. You become more yourself. The healthier, more centered, more powerful version of who you were always destined to be. And now we arrive at the most powerful revelation, the one I promised from the beginning that will completely revolutionize your understanding of what really happens when you pray in a neurally conscious way. Prepare yourself, because this discovery goes beyond neuroplasticity and touches the deepest mystery of human existence. The revelation is this. When you use prayer as neural therapy, you're not just healing your individual brain. You're reconnecting with a collective intelligence that scientists call the morphogenetic field, and mystics have always called universal consciousness. Dr. Rupert Sheldrake, biochemist and researcher, discovered that there exists a collective memory of the species that stores all healing patterns ever experienced by any human being. And when you pray with the right words, you don't just access your own resources. You access the healing wisdom of all humanity. This means that when you repeat, "My soul knows peace," you're not just speaking to your brain. You're connecting with all human beings who have ever found true peace. You're literally downloading neural patterns of serenity that have been developed over millennia. That's why certain prayers work immediately, even when you hear them for the first time. It's not because you believe in them. It's because your soul recognizes frequencies that already exist in the collective field of human consciousness. Now I'm going to teach you the most powerful neural prayer that exists. A prayer that works as a master key for all types of mental and emotional suffering. A prayer that connects you simultaneously with your internal resources and with humanity's collective wisdom. This is the prayer you should repeat every day, preferably in the morning, to install a new neural operating system. Sit in silence. Close your eyes. Breathe deeply 3 times. Now place your hand on your heart and repeat with me. "My soul is an antenna of infinite wisdom." Pause 5 seconds. Feel yourself connecting with something greater. I now access all the healing that has ever been possible for any human being. Breathe deeply. Imagine yourself connecting with a luminous network of consciousness. My mind aligns with patterns of peace, joy, and clarity that already exist in the universal field. Pause. Allow this connection to establish itself. I now download into my nervous system all codes of serenity already developed by humanity. Feel something changing in your internal structure. My soul remembers its original nature. I am peace, I am joy, I am love in action. Repeat this complete sequence 3 times. The first time, establish the connection. The second, deepen it. The third, integrate it completely. What you just experienced transcends individual neuroplasticity. You connected with what Carl Jung called the collective unconscious, the shared memory of all humanity. Dr. Lynn McTaggart, scientific journalist and quantum field researcher, documented thousands of cases of people who achieved instant healings through this connection with collective intelligence. Not miracles. Conscious accesses to healing information that already exists in the morphogenetic field. But here's what makes this even more extraordinary. When you practice this prayer daily, you don't just receive information, you also contribute. Every moment of peace you conquer, every negative pattern you dissolve, every genuine joy you experience becomes available to other human beings. You become an agent of collective healing, a transmitter of expanded neural possibilities, an antenna that receives and sends frequencies of well-being. That's why people close to you begin to change when you change. It's not coincidence. It's the morphogenetic field in action. You're literally transmitting new consciousness patterns through your transformed presence. This prayer you just learned should be repeated every day for at least 21 days. That's the time necessary for new neural circuits to stabilize and for your connection with the collective field to become permanent. In the first days, you'll feel relief. In the first week, you'll notice mood changes. In the second week, people will comment that you're different. In the third week, you'll realize you're no longer the same person who started this journey. And here's the responsibility that comes with this power. When you heal through neural prayer, you become a guardian of elevated frequencies for other people. Your presence becomes medicine. Your peace becomes an antidote to collective anxiety. Your joy becomes a vaccine against global depression. If this message touched something deep in you, if you recognize that you came here to become an agent of collective healing, subscribe to the Daily Prayer channel and become part of this network of conscious human beings who are rewriting humanity's neural patterns. Write in the comments, "I am an antenna of collective healing." Let's form a community of people who understood that individual healing and collective healing are the same thing. On the screen, you'll find 2 essential videos: How to Use Words as Quantum Medicine and The Neural Secret of Prayers That Always Work. These videos will deepen your understanding of the therapeutic power of conscious language. Remember, every time you practice this neural prayer, you're not just healing yourself. You're elevating the healing frequency available to all humanity. You're contributing to a world where anxiety, depression, and trauma become obsolete. Go in peace. Go conscious of your power of neural transmutation. Go knowing that you carry within yourself not just your own spiritual pharmacy, but direct access to the healing wisdom of all beings who have ever walked this earth. The ritual ends here, but the presence continues. You don't need to repeat to deserve. You're already worthy. Without effort, just by existing as a conscious antenna in the infinite field of possibilities.